I kind of feel like I know this to be true in real life, is that you can be so powerful and invincible in certain, aspects, but maybe romantically or maybe in other areas of your life, you're just absolutely like struggling for breath, for her to feel so vulnerable, in her marriage and with her heart, and to feel so betrayed by two men, and yet she's clearly such an unbelievable power.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a single mother returns to Mount Everest in the shadow of her record-setting climb in director Lucy Walker's documentary, Mountain Queen: The Summits of Lhakpa Sherpa. Screened as part of the DGA's documentary series, the film follows the story of Lhakpa Sherpa, the first Nepali woman to summit and survive Mount Everest. Now a single mother living a quiet life in Connecticut, she returns to the mountain in hopes of building a better life for her family. In addition to Mountain Queen, Walker's other directorial credits include the documentary features Blind Sight and Wasteland, episodes of the television documentary series How to Change Your Mind and Independent Lens, and the documentary miniseries Defying Gravity: The Untold Story of Women's Gymnastics. Following the documentary series screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Walker spoke with Director Ondi Timoner about filming Mountain Queen: The Summits of Lhakpa Sherpa. Listen on for their conversation.
Thank you.
This film will be on Netflix on July 31st. So you guys are a pretty lucky audience to see it. Are they the first audience in LA?
They are. You are. They're the very first audience in LA. Yes. We screened at Toronto, which was amazing. Got acquired by Netflix there, which was like the dream come true. And we had actually, like, you would think you'd have money to make an amazing film like this, and it had been a real struggle. And Netflix came in, acquired us, and then we had money to do things like music and things like that. And so we continued to work, and we actually just finished it and had we just finished it like 2 weeks ago and premiered it at San Francisco Film Festival. A lot of our team is based there, and the Sherpa community in the US is in Sonoma, and it was just wonderful. We had an amazing San Francisco screening, and then we're here.
Congratulations. Yeah. It's a beautiful film. How did you, I'm sure everybody wants to know how you connected first with with the
So it's a real team effort. And one of our amazing producers, Chris Newman, was the one who'd first gotten hold of Lhakpa and won her trust, which was huge. And at the time, the rights were with another filmmaker, and I'd written an Outside magazine piece written by the same person that had written a piece about me when I did my film, The Crash Reel. But we have an amazing team that came together. And so I feel very lucky to be sitting here, but we had like a whole bunch of people climb this whole mountain to be here. And we all kind of came together. And I had a very sort of specific vision about how to do it, in part because I had made another Lhakpa movie. I made a movie that I'm really proud of. It's a beautiful movie that wasn't very well distributed, called Blind Sight, about blind people climbing up Everest, that was at Toronto in 2006. I did have a theatrical release, but it was kind of like self-released by the producer, even though we got this amazing offer at Toronto from Warner Brothers, and she turned it down. Anyway, nobody saw that movie, sadly, but it's a beautiful movie called Blind Sight. But I climbed Everest from the north side to make that movie. And so I was on Everest in 2004, actually, but from the other side. And so I knew what it was to make a movie on Everest. And I also knew that it would be electrifying if we could follow Lhakpa on this journey. And I also wanted to include the story of her personal life because I thought that her life story was so compelling, and the fact that someone could be so strong on the mountain and yet so kind of vulnerable in their life's journey, I thought was something I hadn't, I couldn't think of a movie that really took that in, really told that story quite so powerfully.
It's not your first sort of impossible visionary sort of person pushing against the odds story, though, in terms of, people I think it's not even your only, besides Blindside, you've Crash Reel in the mountains. And the mountains are so important to you too. I was thinking about you, obviously, as I was watching it, and I was thinking when she says at one point, "You are my mountain queen," or something. I felt like, is she talking to Lucy? Actually, did you guys connect about the mountains and what
I hate mountains. Excuse my language. I live at sea level. I'm in Venice. It's great. You can see the sea.
You're just upset because you just hurt yourself skiing.
I did hurt my ACL recently, but no. I got back from Everest in 2004, and I was like, "Where's the ocean? I'm never getting out of the way." The altitude is. It's
grueling.
And if you want to go hiking, it's beautiful. You don't need to go up that high. And
how long does it take, though, Lucy, to summit?
It's awful. And then just as the responsibilities of filmmaker up there, because you feel horrific, and it's really dangerous. I mean, when we climbed 2 years ago, only 2 people died that season, but last year, I want to say 12 people. Our amazing producer Miranda in the audience. And I sent you that article, but something, a horrific number of people died in that ice fall. The ice fall is the bit right after base camp, like that first really gnarly stretch you go up through. And I did not go up through the ice fall because I knew I couldn't. So I knew I wasn't going to do that. I'm not technical. I'm not fast, and I couldn't do that. And so I knew that it was going to be amazing collaborators. So I can tell you how we did that, but it was not with me going up there this time. I was like, I know not doing that again.
Go this time. I know you didn't shoot this time.
I did not go.
How did you shoot this? Because there's so many beautiful shots. I mean, how did the team shoot
amazing teamwork, amazing collaborators.
Sherpas.
You can imagine. Yes, Sherpas and a high altitude cinematographer and another cinematographer, our amazing cinematographer of the not high altitude variety. But we had 2, but I knew from 2004 that what you need is a high altitude cinematographer, and that they're very special creatures. And you can't expect anyone to summit Everest, right? You can only just try to find the right person and really support them and really empower them, and just amazing collaborators. But I had no idea what was going to be possible. And it's, altitude, even if you're really experienced, altitude is really gnarly, and you always have to say safety first. And, nothing's obviously remotely worth compromising safety. So you don't know what's going to happen. We were so lucky, but also I was really excited to give cameras to the Sherpas on her team, and see what they come up with, and kind of really empower them and train them, and explain what you want, and empower them to spot what they can. And it was really thrilling to see everybody's shots up there, and we got some beautiful, amazing stuff, right? So that was really cool. So I love, the 3rd line or 4th line of the movie when she says, or very early on, she says, "When I go up to the top, I am so big, I'm the queen. And when I come down, I'm a mouse." She says it towards the end of the film as well. And you just touched on that. You hadn't seen a film that had that kind of dynamic where you have someone who's at once so powerful and so powerless. And power is a big word that she uses. And also in relationship, I kind of feel like, I know this to be true in real life, is that you can be so powerful and invincible in certain, aspects, but maybe romantically or maybe in other areas of your life, you're just absolutely like struggling for breath, and for her to feel so vulnerable as in her marriage and with her heart, and to feel so betrayed by two men, because she set out for this love marriage and she escaped an arranged marriage and she set out for love. And the first guy ditched her when she got pregnant, and the second guy is George, and
her Yeti,
right? And so I thought that was and yet she's clearly such an unbelievable power person.
But just to compliment you on your craft here, I mean, it's really like, it's pretty wonderful the way you weave together the story of George and the mountain, and the story of these girls and the revelation of sort of what they went through as children. Yeah. And then when you really bring it home is, as you're rounding the corner into Act 3, like 70% of the film or something, you're like, I don't know exactly where it hits, but when you just have, her in the death zone right after she leaves for the shelter, and she goes and in real life has to go for her safety. And there she is. She's like putting her entire life at risk. And then you see her shiny there with her walkie-talkie, and her mother is everything. What's she going to do without her mother? And it's just like both of these storylines that are paralleling really come together. And it's a great way that you build sort of these internal cliffhangers in the film. You leave us with George smacks her down, and then it's like, boom, we're into the other storyline, really.
I really like, I'm like,
how did you discover that? Like where in this did you realize?
Immediately. Like Miranda's our wonderful producer in the audience, about to have a baby. Stand up, Miranda is amazing. Miranda and her bump. Hey. But do you remember Miranda was like from the first like time we were already talking, and from the first like visit you had to the editing room with the index cardboard. So this was the structure I always had, and I always had the summits of her life as the structure. My film Blindsight, is about an amazing blind American guy, climbs Everest and then realizes that he's very privileged, and these kids from the blind school in Tibet are so excited that he climbs Everest and write him, and he actually goes back because he realizes he's such a privileged blind guy, but what if they could climb? So then he takes them climbing along with their blind teacher, and they all go climbing, and then it all goes really badly wrong, but they're amazing, and it's an amazing movie. And so that is my film Blindsight. But I realized making that like climbing a mountain is like a fantastic narrative engine, right? It's like the perfect story. Like you want to climb a mountain, there's a reason you need to go. You're going to get to the top. It's going to be gnarly along the way. And then what happens like afterwards, right? So it's just like this perfect little like narrative. And then actually when I came up with the idea for my film Wasteland about an art project, I was actually trying to think about how to make a film about an artist that would be watchable. And I was kind of puzzling on this. And Pedro, the editor of Wasteland's here. Hey, Pedro. Amazing.
Hi, Pedro.
So what I was trying to think about, like there was an artist and there was talk about making a film about a slideshow. And I was like, don't make a film about his slideshow. His slideshow is amazing slideshow. It's not a movie. And then I'm like, well, what is? And I was like, oh God. And I was thinking like, okay, what's the mountain climb of art? And I was like, what if he does a really difficult art project? Like the one that could like, everyone could die doing. Like, you know what I mean? You set out to do it. Like what's going to happen? And that was Wasteland, right? It was like this crazy idea for a very like dangerous, far-fetched art project with a whole bunch of people, and then what's going to happen. And that's actually how I came up with Wasteland, because it was my film after my Mount Everest movie. So with this one, I kind of already knew we had this fantastic device, and climbing the mountain is going to be the spine you can hang the backstory off of. And I already, for some reason, instantly always had this idea of summits, you know, and thought about her life as all these summits, you know, that she'd kind of gotten through. And I really I've done it a few times, woven backstory off of that spine of a present tense narrative like that. And I really like character-driven narrative as documentaries. I think narratives are such good I just like narratives. I like beginning, middle, and ends. As a filmmaker, it's very relaxing when you know what the story is. Then you just got to concentrate on telling it well. When you don't know what the hell story you're telling, I can't sleep. I'm like, oh my God, you put that first or that first. It's like this.
Well, tell everybody the story that you told me just now.
Which one?
About finding the ending and fighting for the ending.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the girls' arcs were so beautiful, right? About like Sunny in the kitchen and oh my God.
Yeah.
So Sunny hadn't really spoken, right? I mean, and as you're going along as a filmmaker, you're really worried for her. I mean, clearly you're incredibly worried about her, worried about how it's going to be if the movie comes out and she's still in that kind of rough state that she was in at that moment. And there was one day when we were filming, I don't even know what we were filming. I don't know if it made the movie or not. I don't remember. But we were filming one day and Sunny still hadn't spoken. And then the like sound person had wrapped and gone home. The DP's downloading cards. I'm like chit-chatting with Lhakpa and suddenly there's like a Sunny sighting and there's like the sound of the fridge opening or something. I'm like, and Sunny's like in a chatty mood and I'm like, roll. And the DP's like, I was like, so not loaded, like the car's going. I'm like, no, roll. And it's like, the lights are off. I'm like, flick the light switch off. I'm like, the lights are on, roll. And it's just like, and the DP's like, we can't. I'm like, who's doing sound? Me, let's go. And then he just kept saying, we've got it. I'm like, no, roll. Like, it's just because, as a documentary filmmaker, right, there are moments, and if you miss them, you don't get them back. And I don't care if the lights are on, frankly, like, get the sound. You know what I mean? So it's just these moments are so and that moment where she says, like, you inspired me. There was somebody to step up the mountain. I was like, oh my God, thank you. And that moment when she's in the hotel room, then, she kept blossoming and it's just like this amazing thing. And, you're in the editing room and I'm like, okay, dig into the kids' arcs. That's just because originally the kids' arcs, I hadn't quite, in the structure, like there was the things I knew and the things I didn't know. The thing that occurred to me, and I remember even like calling up Miranda and saying like, that's the idea. That's what I want to do is dig more into the kids' arc because the kids' arcs can actually really help build the story to the next level. And that hadn't necessarily been the arc of the kids at the beginning. Like that actually evolved, a bit more later in the shooting, especially with that beautiful scene in the hotel room that you've just seen at the very end where Sunny's looking in the mirror and, we're late. We're supposed to be going to the banquet and all the rest of it. And I just know, and Miranda was there and like, we're under huge time pressure. Like, gotta leave. And I'm like, if I'm looking at Sunny in the mirror and I said, Sunny, what do you see when you look in the mirror? And she said, I don't know. And I was like, yes, you do. What do you see when you look in the mirror? And she said, I see somebody that can be someone. And you're like, oh God, is the camera rolling? I'm looking at the monitor like, we got it. Did we get it? Oh God, we got it. So the stuff like that, the moments where you like, no, it's just such an exquisite moment. It's going to be such an important moment in the movie.
It's quite profound, the girls, their journey. It's really a look at shame and how we hold sort of like the way that Sunny starts out so silenced and sort of in denial of who she is and sort of almost feels like she kind of hates herself and her mother and her poverty and everything. And then comes to really embrace the trauma as strength. And it's really interesting to see, as the summit happens, the 10th summit occurs, it's almost like the dam breaks and now they can talk. They can talk about things, which is the only way to release shame, but there's no way that you could have actually known that probably, right? Like when did you start filming this? And like how long in the narrative and in real life was the first Sunny sighting where she's all like eyeliner and bangs and goth and just.
Oh no, that was like right around the climb, right? And
which is how long ago?
The climb was 2 years ago. It's actually right now. The like Dave with the long hair, George's best friend. He's actually was it May 12th that they summited? Like the anniversary is like coming right up. So they summited May 12th, and there's a very specific window with the weather. And the biggest window is May. There's a little window in October sometimes too. But, and depending on exactly on the weather, particular year, they're up there right now, and they're in the icefall right now. And the icefall is really dangerous this year, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, they're up there right now. So exactly 2 years ago we were shooting.
How long does it, I was wondering, like, how long does it actually take? You get to the base camp and you wait.
Well, Lhakpa does it fast because she doesn't do rotations. And actually now other people are starting to do what you usually do is climb heights. I could bore you for ages about mountaineering, but you probably got anyone mountaineers in the audience, by the way? No,
not a one.
Oh,
one. There's one.
So correct me. But what you normally do is climb high, sleep low to acclimate. And they used to go through the icefall and down and through the icefall and down to kind of acclimate training, because you can't stay in the death zone, because in the death zone you stop acclimating. You're just kind of dying up there. Your body stops acclimating. It's just like dying, and you can't eat, and it's just awful. And you could get severe altitude illness at any time and die, actually seriously die. And so, but unfortunately the icefall is getting, with climate change getting hotter, it's getting more and more unstable and melty. And so they don't like to, it's very dangerous in there because it just kind of moves, and those ladders and you don't want to be on one when it does. And so Lhakpa didn't do rotations, which is also why it's very difficult for people to like keep up with her, because normally, just to go up to Camp 2 and then like stick the altitude sickness that you get from climbing up and then not descending again. And sleeping, because sleeping is the hardest thing, because you don't breathe as much when you're sleeping, and then you get really altitude ill and stuff. So, and you get just horrific headache, can't eat, feel sick, everything's really, really difficult, can't take another step, even though it's not physically that challenging. It's just that you just don't have the oxygen, blah, blah, blah. It's a really rough experience, and no one's not feeling it, right? Including the Sherpa people. It's like, I feel like everyone had like dropped acid, and you're like looking around for somebody that was actually fully oxygenated, and there's just nobody, it's awful. Should I say nothing? But mountains are great. I love mountains, but no, I prefer making the movies about the mountains, or the athletes, the same thing. Yeah. Crash Show's about the snowboarder, and I'm not an extreme sports person.
How has it been, her journey with this film? And also, being illiterate, tell me about, what that's been like. And also 3 questions. And then deciding to do the interviews in English with her as well. I was curious about that. Yeah. We did try some stuff in different languages, actually. And, it was interesting. I have so much to say about that as well. So much to say about interviewing, because initially she skips over stuff as well. So initially, no matter what language you're in, she would skip all the difficult parts of her life and just tell you the easy bits. And it took a lot to get her to open up about the difficult things. And it was very, very intense for her when she did. That's beautiful that editorially you had us go through that, because she walks out of the frame when you first talk about George, and then she talks more about George and more about George. Oh, that's actually when she's young. So what we did was we did a huge push. I didn't shoot the stuff in the year 2000. That was that was the dailies of another film. And I pursued relentlessly. And we had an amazing archival producer who's I've worked with many times before. It turns out to be Romanian. We had like amazing luck on this film. Who knew that my regular amazing archival researcher was Romanian by birth and still spoke Romanian? She's perfectly American, has lived here since she was a small child, but she happens to speak Romanian, which really helped to get the 2003 footage. I pursued Michael, the journalist who shot the stuff in 2004 and then gave that interview as well. He wrote the book for so long to get him to give an interview and also to give us that footage. And the year 2000 stuff, which is when she leaves frame crying, was from the dailies of another movie. And I knew that movie existed and I really wanted to get the dailies of it, but trying to persuade a filmmaker to give you their dailies from the year 2000 took, I just didn't take no for an answer. And, but it was a huge campaign. And so, there's like lots of different archival. And one thing I love is, and I'm looking at Pedro, who cut the crash reel as well as Wasteland, who's an amazing editor and just incredible editor. And what fun we have, right? Like weaving together
one of my favorite jokes about the crash was people think that we started filming it before the crash. Like, how did you pick the guy that was going to crash? And you're like, I think even Variety gave us a review about that. Like, lucky filmmaker picked the guy who crashed. And you're like, actually, no, we just got all this archival material and we edited it like the bejesus out of it. And so that's something else that I really, really enjoy doing, the kind of archaeological dig of it all. And what's incredible is you have a feeling of what might have gone on, and then you find it, like, and when Lhakpa left her home, when she fled, she had nothing. And she never got it. So she never had any personal photos, home movies, anything.
Even when he died?
No, the contents were taken. The kids got nothing. We actually had a whole investigation. We tried to help, but it's like, how can that be legal? Because they're surely his heirs. And there was a house full of stuff, and I could bore you forever about the heartbreak of that, but no, everything was sold. Nothing came back to them at all. And so we started from scratch in terms of looking for that material. But then even like you find the video of George, right? It was even, we found and included one clip since Toronto. And the kids in Lhakpa saw the movie first time at Toronto and then in San Francisco. And I had to sit them down and say, actually, there's some new video of your dad that you're not going to have seen before. And stuff like that. But it's really amazing feeling when you know the story so well, because you've been just studying it and putting together this, gathering this material to tell the story. It's like this it's like real archaeological dig. And then you get this new material, and you sort of knew something was there. It's like, I remember we were making the crash reel, so a totally different movie, by the way, but we knew there was something about Shaun White in that, but this wasn't like there's something there, you start digging like, oh my God, that was why he crashed, because this rivalry was no one talks about it afterwards, after the crash, because it was so awful to even talk about that stuff that was so moot now that he was so injured. But you start digging and you start finding this whole like buried stuff. It's really like, for me, I get such a high off that. For me, one of the incredible thrills of making documentaries is that making documentaries for me is like a special instrument with which you can examine how life actually works, right? Sometimes with these stories, especially these longitudinal stories, you feel like you get time compressed and important moments of time and important characters, and you can kind of glimpse the forces operating on people's lives. And you can actually find video, video is such a powerful medium, like finding video of Lhakpa ashamed and crying about that being abandoned in the year 2000, seeing her lie in 2003 and say, I don't have a kid, I haven't remarried, I'm just doing like whatever jobs you might do, because I'm illiterate, right? Seeing her lie on camera in that interview where George is telling her she can't tell journalists about her life. I mean, seeing the photos of her knocked out at base camp, just seeing George shout at her in the freaking, dinner tent. You feel making documentaries that you can kind of just glimpse how life works. It's just this kind of extraordinary scope. I don't know anything else like it. And I was so inspired to say by Hoop Dreams or the Up series, 7 Up, the great Michael Apted I always think about with the DGA, but his series 7 Up, that you feel like you could actually see how life works. And you can just see this life unfold, and you gather all this material and you're like, oh my God, you put it all together and like, wow, this is such a powerful way to tell the story of a life, or to give you the sense of what her life has really been like, I think. Anyway, that's really breathtaking and just makes documentary filmmaking such a uniquely powerful kind of thing.
What I like is that the form of the two storylines, like there's the Everest, which is just this solid mountain, it's so steep and so insurmountable, but yet she will do it. And she does it all the time. It seems like annually. And then there's like her actual life as this mouse at Whole Foods, and by the end of the film, she's up here too, but really truly in her life. And even her kids kind of come out of the woodwork and everything. And so that's why I wanted to know, what has been her journey with this film? Because in a way, this film is a realization of everything that she's been hoping to.
No, it is. It's what she, there's this line at the end that I love when she says, because she nearly turned around, it was really tough that summit. It was the toughest summit. The 10th summit was really tough, and she nearly turned around right at the top. And then she remembered Sonny Shiny saying, "Mama, this 10th summit is going to change your life." And it is. It's going to change her life. Everything in her life's changing right now. And she, we sold out so very fast at San Francisco, which was fantastic. They gave us an encore screening, and so it was the third time that she got to see it. And she just wanted to sit on her own, and it was a really raucous screening. People were really it was very like lots of rounds of applause and laughter during the screening, and she just sat there crying. And it's just it's starting to sink in that people are seeing her. That what she's been fighting for all this time, and she, it's really moving. And you can see, that's another thing I love about that, seeing her in the year 2000. It's like, she's so shy. She's like, doesn't know. She's like, shall I begin? And she doesn't know where the camera is. She's clearly not media trained, right? But she's got this goal of changing the world for women and girls. And she's just got this sense of that women and girls are capable of more, and she's capable of more. And she's going to take her pain and use it to help other people. And it's such a, it's incredible, and I think this movie is going to help so many people. It's incredible. It's going to be on Netflix in 192 countries. It's the first film that Netflix has ever translated into Nepali, so it's going to have Nepali subtitles. Amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And it is like that thing they say at the end about, like, there's a Nepali saying, to have a daughter is watering your neighbor's garden. Like, for women in the developing world, it's not equal, and women, in the Western world, it's not equal, but you really feel in certain places quite how limited opportunities are, and quite how tough life can be for women in certain places in the world, and that's really changing. And I think that's and she's just like, I just want a lot of people to watch Lhakpa, right? She's just a very I don't know if I've seen a person quite like that. It's just a really amazing person to have on such a incredible global platforms. Really exciting.
That is really exciting. Her father is mentioned twice that I can recall. Once when her mom's worried that she's going to cut her hair and become a porter. Yeah. And she's going to get eaten by a snow leopard, and Dad says,
no, she'll fight back. Yeah, she'll fight him off.
She'll fight him off. Exactly. And then when she summits, he feels like
5 sons.
Yeah.
He put me on the son level. The gender,
it's like so crazy.
At some point when I was studying literature as an undergraduate, I wrote a thesis on pumping iron to the women. This movie, which is quite funny because I work out at Gold's Gym every day because I live in Venice. I love Gold's Gym, and there's Pumping Iron 1, the original Pumping Iron. There's even Arnold's often working out there in person himself, right? So anyway, I quite often think about my essay on pumping iron to the women, and but it's so gendered. Her language is so like, I just think there's going to be some gender studies papers written about this movie, right? Because it is like, she cuts off her hair and pretends to be a boy, to get out of her arranged marriage, and she gets promoted to kitchen boy. It's just so gendered, all this language, so what she's accomplished is so incredibly impressive, and I hope it comes through that. It's extremely expensive. I mean, like, climbing Everest is hard, but it's also hard to just have that much money, right? It's just extremely expensive. And the way the Sherpas who've got the record for most summits do it is they're employed to do it, right? They usually work on the rope teams. But there's no women on the rope teams. There's no women employed as Sherpas up there, because it's so challenging. So for her to have broke as she is, like found a way up to the top, like just the financial accomplishment of that, because it's like, I don't know, what is it, $100,000 or something like that for an for a personal ticket, like the cost of one of a, like stuff like that. So just what she's accomplished is just how she's managed to kind of like get that to happen.
Before we end, I want to make sure, yes, in the back with the red hat.
Yeah, Nima's around. He's a little bit there in the beginning of the movie, and he's there at the end. Yeah, that's her son Nima. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah, he's a mechanic in New York, and he's lovely. And we could have done a longer version with him in the movie because he's absolutely lovely. And he's the one at the beginning. She says, "Keep eye on your sister," and then at the end, he's there celebrating as well with her. And is very much part of the family. And the budget with them, we're always trying to never answer questions about budget. I will say that it was a real struggle. It's a real, I don't know if you've heard, but documentaries are really having a hard time. It's like been a huge implosion in our industry. And so I kind of have survivor guilt that I have this like lovely, amazing high production value movie that's sold to Netflix. I think we were one of like, I can't even tell you how few movies even sold last year. And, so I feel really, really fortunate. I think a good chunk of our budget was spent on Everest. But I tell you, like, it was really tight. You would think, and it was so great that we sold to Netflix at Toronto because it is tough, and we were really fortunate we had enough money to make it, but it's brutal. Like, I mean, it was a very, very, very tight budget. There was like a huge amount of love and goodwill that like made up the gap in this budget, I will say, and just insanely hard work.
We truly
never answer those questions.
We're not even trained. We just don't answer questions about budget, except once in a while on my talk show. People would tell me, but but not on the DGA. Yes, right there. Maybe at a bar sometime, but yes.
Yes, thank you for asking. Thank you. And I think I've made 10 features, so go figure.
Couple parallels there.
Yeah, no,
the
absolutely.
The question was the parallel between documentary filmmaking and mountain climbing.
There was times when I was thinking, like, this is
both
my 10th Everest. This movie is my 10th
insane.
Everest. Yeah, they are. They are. And it is a male-dominated field. And it is hugely strenuous, right? And a hugely risky, bold venture. And that requires an amazing team. And is not without its like great risks.
There's so many
rewards.
Metaphors. There's so many metaphors. Like even just the when the weather gets to where you're inside a ping pong or whatever and you can't see, there's always that phase. That's so much fun when you're like, how many films have I made? And I don't know what to do right now.
So true.
And that's usually right before you figure it all out. Yes, back there.
Good. No, it's a great question. She is currently cleaning houses. And it's interesting. I think she's a little embarrassed at the moment because people have started yelling Mountain Queen after her. And seriously, and she's, I think this is changing, but she's still navigating, feeling ashamed that she can be this star on the mountain and have this world record. And she feels like she should have more to show for herself in her life. And she's embarrassed to be having this humble job, even though actually she's also not so humble. And actually she's also got an incredible attitude about, she doesn't mind hard work. In fact, she kind of enjoys it. She always says she doesn't, she's got such a good attitude about even these, minimum wage work that she does. She's just really good attitude about it. And, but I think it is awkward. She, so many things I love to have put in the movie, but she talks about how when people used to say, if they find out her last name Sherpa, they say, oh, aren't they Sherpas like on Everest and they go climbing? And she'd always say, oh yeah. And they'd say, do you have anyone in your family, you have brothers that have climbed Everest? She said, oh no. And she's always denied it because it is just it's like she doesn't want to get into the fact that like then it's like, well, what is she doing here? And it's embarrassing. So I think we're navigating that. I mean, we've got a whole robust impact campaign. If anyone wants to donate, then we've got a fund started for her. If they want to help college fund for the daughters, we had our first donation in San Francisco, and it's really exciting. And we're working. It's really exciting building out our impact campaign as a kind of two-pronged strategy. One is to help the causes that she cares about, and one is also just to help the family and set them up. And so that's really cool. Oh no, it's like, how could you not? Thank you.
How do we help the kids' college fund?
Well, talk to me. That's right. And
is there
what's
something
the website?
on the internet?
We've got a new GoFundMe that's like interim. We're getting a whole 501c3 with this whole thing, and it's been taking, and Miranda can talk to this as well. It's been taking like ages to get our 501c3, and then with the San Francisco, we're just like, oh, let's just set up a GoFundMe as an interim fund. And sure enough, we got an amazing first donation. That's going to be a matching grant if people want to help. What's the website again? I should know this. There you go. We also have a QR code, which I forgot to bring, but I'll get good at that later.
I think this might be our last question. Yes. Let me repeat the question. So it's when she was doing her 10th summit, how often were you getting footage, or did you get footage during that? And were you worried for her safety?
Oh my God. Well, no. So that you descend pretty fast. When you're coming down, the air gets thicker with every step, and it's like it takes like, to your thing, like minimum like 10 days to get up, up to a month to get up, and then like 2 days to get down, because you're not sticking around. There's nothing you want to do apart from get down at that point, and your legs will just take you. And it's easy coming down. It's not that easy climbing wise, but it's like the oxygen's getting thicker, and you just want to get down so badly. So you pretty much come right down, and so that's there's no like magical. There's no magic up there. There's like walkies that you can't get through on. And like, that's the comms, right? That's it. Like, and there's no extra runners running. There's nobody going faster than they're going. They're going this faster than anybody. Like, she was the first up past after the Sherpa who fixed the ropes. She's like the first team next, basically. So she likes going fast and first compared to the tourist team. So that's as fast as you get it. But were we like having kittens? The responsibility is so savage, and because you're really responsible for these lives up there as well, and you've got your team and you've got their team, and you're so at the mercy of the mountain. And I said this was a really friendly season. Only 2 people died 2 years ago, but like a lot more people die most years. So we were really, really fortunate. There is just no way of knowing about that. But I take that risk weighs really heavily on me. And then just when you get through that, she decides to climb K2, and they were out of radio contact for a long time. It's like the comms there are really, really bad. And somebody died, and we just knew there was a report of a death, but we didn't know who. And it's just like, oh my God, she was kind of up there for longer than, she kind of should have been, and hadn't kind of returned to camp. And we just got into Toronto, and you're like, just don't die, it's got so many beautiful things ahead, if you could get down for them. And apart from just like, obviously not dying in general, it was definitely the plan. And, but it was just like, that was like, I spent 6 months in Tibet in 2004, and I was taught how to. I'm a Buddhist, but not a Tibetan Buddhist. But having spent 6 months in Tibet in 2004, and Sherpas are actually ethnically Tibetan and a Tibetan Buddhist. And anyway, there's a special chant that you chant. That's the green Tara who kind of comes to your rescue when you're really, really in danger. It's like the peril chant. I started like doing the green Tara chant. That was that's how you feel. Like it's green Tara, you're calling on green Tara, which is basically 911 in Tibet,
Thank you so much, Lucy. Congratulations. Thanks for sharing the film with us and the stories. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.